Hello, I'm Luke Darcy. Welcome to the 2013 wash-up for the Tigers. Damo, after 12 long years, Richmond finally tasted some September action, and it was fantastic. 94,000 saw them take on Carlton at the MCG.
Yeah, look, it was great to see them get there, Darcy, but as is so often the case with all matters Richmond, ultimately, because of that bad loss to Carlton in the final, it was bittersweet only.
Yeah, as a club, I think they're really building a massive membership base financially and got all the pillars in place. Just a disappointing end, as you said, with that final. Highlight for me was their win over Hawthorn in round 19 by 41 points. It just shows a glimpse into what an exciting side they are. I think the challenge for them, Damo, is their gap between their best and their worst and trying to lower that, as we saw against Carlton in the final. They smashed Hawthorn by 10 goals last year as well. So they can knock off the best in the business. And I think they'll take that into the pre-season, that the talent is there, they just need to show it a bit more regularly.
Well, one of only two teams to beat the Hawks in the home and away season, Darcy, Geelong being the other one on two occasions. For my highlight, Darcy, I've just gone with the young kids in Conker and Alice and Vlosten, and I just felt that they stepped up to take some heat off Cochin and Delidio. They did it pretty regularly, and I really liked what they did. I reckon the kids that developed there, and Alice is the one on screen at the moment, really stood up, and I know they've probably put in a finals performance they're not going to be happy with, but when you do it over 22 weeks of a home and away season, the way these kids did, there's some substance to what they did.
And their issue, Damo, has been drafting, recruiting, developing good players. Conker, you know, he's got a 200-game player written over, and Floston's going to be an elite player in the game. Brandon Ellis, I'm a massive fan of. You know, we can talk about Steve Morris as well a little bit later on, but I'm with you, Damo. I think the talent is there, and that's exciting for Richmond. Season lowlight came for me in the big final, the elimination final, and I just thought 32 points up, going beautifully just before half-time. To get beaten at that stage just erodes away a lot of the good for the year, and it really is soul-destroying for Richmond in the off-season. Low light for you, Damo?
Low light for me, Das, was the farcical situation of Shane Tuck playing against Port Adelaide. You can see his shoulder, which he's had regular problems with, it's basically popped there, Das, or it's very, very sore. And that's, you know, that happens in footy. You go off the ground and most times you stay off, but he came back on this particular occasion. You can see him troubled there again. It's in real trouble, and I just highlighting it to ask. I mean, medical practitioners, particularly in footy, get very precious when non-medical people make observations about their work. But this was embarrassing, Dave. This is a guy who should not have been out in the footy ground. He just kept going back out. For some reason, they kept putting it. Look at this passage of play here, Dave. He puts in the hard yards here with one arm. It wasn't good. I didn't like it, and I reckon they probably got away with proper scrutiny on how he was able to play that particular game. Yeah,
I'm not sure you can justify that one all that easily. Before we leave the lowlights, there was one that made me laugh a bit, Damo. It reminds me, you never, ever trust footballers to tell the truth in footy. Look at Jack Revolt. He's gone for Mark of the Yagan. He pushed me in the back. He said, "No, Jack, let's take a look at it one more time. No one near you." Ridiculous marking attempt. And he gets up to push, and he's arguing the point. Extraordinary stuff. Christmas bonus time, Damo, for the Tigers. I think there'll be a number of players will be putting their hand out. The one that stood out for me is Brandon Ellis. I think he's a real find. Said it a lot on accessible areas throughout the year, Damo, about the Damien Hardwick type of player. I think you'll love these sort of competitors who perform really aggressively. He can run, he can kick goals, but he's just got that natural, hard competitive instinct that his coach had when he played for the Bombers, and Brandon Ellis has been a real find for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Das, and they love him down there at Richmond. For my Christmas bonus, I've gone for a guy we've already mentioned here today, Steve Morris. Just the desperation with which he applies every single passage of play. You see the smother there on Dangerfield, and he did it a lot, didn't he, Das, throughout the particular year? Just the real one-percenters and the things that Damien Hardwick did as a player and things that he would absolutely love. I mean, this chase down, it was just a regular part of his play in 2013. He had a disappointing final, Das, and he's going to have to live with that, but he wasn't alone on that. And as I said, I just think his whole year in totality needs to be judged, not just on what happened in the final. And look, he's not just a dogged player. He can kick nice goals like that as well.
I always feel you build your side around the Morrises and the Ellises and the Flostons, and those guys add the polish at the end. Chopping block time, Davo, never easy to delist players and move players on, but when every club has to do it. I think Robin Nahas, as time might have finished at Richmond, could only manage 6 games, and he's got a couple of players in front of him. Jake King and Shane Edwards are probably going to be selected first, so maybe some currency somewhere else for Robbie Nahas.
Yep. To me, it's one of the players in the forward line mixed us. Luke McGuan was tried early, and it worked to a degree early on in the season, but as it wore on the year, he wasn't getting a look in, and in the end, Aaron Edwards surpassed him as the a person to play alongside Jack Revolt there. I think Luke McGuan needs to look at a club outside Richmond.
Yeah, he had some mobility, Luke Maguire, and showed some talent, but maybe get squeezed out a bit as he did in the final. We're going to look to where they can improve next year, the Tigers, and I think they need some support for Big Ivan Maric, who had another really consistent year. I think they need a second ruck choice. Oren Stephenson turns 32. Glimpses, but I'm not sure he's the answer. We keep hearing a bit about Billy Longer from the Brisbane Lions, who was a top 10 draft selection. He's declared, Damo, I understand that he would like to find a new home.
Yep.
And maybe Richmond might think about him for backup ruck.
They will be looking at a backup for Big Ivan, as you say, Darcy. He may well be the one. To me, they've just got to have another awkward off-season when it comes to keeping Dustin Martin on the straight and narrow. Darcy, that was a very difficult process last year, and they didn't do it, and they put their hand up, I think, quite admirably and said it was tough getting him through. They've got another 6 months of worry over what happens with him because he's not easy to deal with off-field.
Let's have a look at the finals for next year, or where we think Richmond might finish in 2014. Damo, have you got them improving again?
Well, I've got them stagnating, Das, but that could mean they do what they did and make a elimination final and then win it. But I reckon in course of the 2014 home and away season, just stagnating around where they were.
So back inside the 8. Bit the same for me, Damo. I don't think this year was a fluke. I think Richmond are good enough to make the finals again in 2014 and hopefully win a final. I think they're good enough to do it. Thank you, Damo. That has been the wash-up for the Tigers in season 2013.